Hey everyone, it's Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com, DevOps TV, and we're here at IBM Think 2018, joined by Chris Nowak of Kingsmen Software. Chris, welcome.
Thank you.
Chris and I have appeared together on DevOps.com webinars. If you get a chance, you should go check that out on DevOps TV. Great webinar we did recently.
Thank you.
But we've never sat at the same table before, so since we're both here at IBM Think, let's dive in. So Chris, first of all, it's day 2 of IBM Think. Yesterday was kind of sessions and stuff, and
It was.
It was enough to start getting sort of a flavor for what the big trends are going to be, this year at Think.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you share with our audience, because most people watching weren't able to make it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the big trends are so far for you?
Well, I'm here particularly paying attention to the DevOps spaces, and what I'm seeing is it's really interesting how a lot of things are coming together. Before it was application automation, so you see the other trends coming into it. So there's the the cloud, the provisioning, of course. I think that's driving a lot of the innovation that's happening in the DevOps space. And just the fact that we're talking about data as well being driven as part of it. So it's kind of interesting in the DevOps space where all of these other things are just driving DevOps forward, and it's just no longer about application automation.
No. But you know what, Chris? It's the way it should be.
Sure.
At some level, right?
Mm.
I mean, when we talk about DevOps today, it's kind of an umbrella type of term that really encompasses, as you mentioned, application automation, but it also there's the data element, and when that brings in, of course, databases, and there's the security aspects of it. There's the testing. There's this. It really A to Z.
It is.
And just like in real life, Chris, they don't all move in lock sync. You may see one part of the DevOps, pattern heat up. Another one goes a little dark, and then it heats up again, and so progress isn't measured, I think, in linear, smooth hops.
Right.
It's what I call the DevOps cha-cha. I wrote an article about this a couple months ago. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
It absolutely is. And I think that goes into the idea that once you get past the tooling, DevOps it's about learning and collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And so that 2 steps forward, 1 step back, I think is really part of the learning process, right? And you'll hear Gene Kim and others start to talk about, learning organizations, and that's where this type of thing, I think, is starting to go. The trick around it, you want to do things in a safe way, minimize, kind of the blast radius and the impact to certain teams as you learn from that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what's really interesting is we talk about tools, but the tools are really just a proxy for what's really happening, which is people are learning to work better together.
Yeah, I mean, look, tools, and not just DevOps tools, going back to Neanderthal and, caveman tools, as men, we always say, right, we're only as good as our tools, but a tool is something for a specific job. I think when we talk about DevOps, we talk about something that kind of transcends a specific job and talks about an entire process, an entire way of doing things.
Absolutely.
So tools are great. Tools are interchangeable, and
They are.
tools need to keep up and all of that stuff. But really, at its heart, what we're talking about is so much more cultural, so much more organizational.
Absolutely.
In terms of, hey, get with the program.
Right.
Right?
It
that's
is.
to me, is what it's about.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, I see a lot of organizations, they'll start with tools. And that's a good place to be, right? Because it helps them, kind of work.
It's comfortable.
It's comfortable. It's a great way to put it, right? But what you end up doing, if you're familiar with the goal or whatever, you start to get these local optimas. Well, you start to have to chain those together. And the way it transcends that is you start to look at the process or the value stream flow across all of the different areas. We talk about tools more like a framework. It's something to enable the right types of behaviors. And so you very much move it up the stack very quickly to say, well, what's the stream of process we're looking for? But more importantly, how do we behave to align that to the organizational goals? And that's when you start to have that conversation, you're getting pretty high up on the DevOps maturity curve.
Absolutely. I want to bring up another thing with you, Chris, and that is this year at IBM Think, it's a huge floor. You were out on the floor last
huge.
night.
I was lost 4 times.
Yeah, me too, because they have Think Tank A, B, C all over the place.
Right.
So I told someone to meet me at Think Tank C, but they were at the different Think Tank C,
Right.
whatever. But I didn't see a big banner like in years past that said DevOps.
Yeah,
There
you're
wasn't
right.
a DevOps area.
There wasn't.
It's almost like DevOps is integrated into several areas.
That's a really interesting observation. Until you said it, I didn't really think about it. Yeah, there's cloud data, there's infrastructure, modern infrastructure. I think that's positive now that you say that, right? Because it's starting to become sort of this implicit, infused idea.
It's built in.
It is built in, which is exactly where you want it to go, because that tells me that people are going to, they're going to go with DevOps to behave the way you want to behave to get value out the door.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
So for those who may look at that and say, oh, I guess DevOps isn't a big thing anymore, or DevOps isn't hot. Au contraire, it's actually, DevOps is finally becoming, part of the culture, part of the way we do things.
That's great.
It's no longer that kind of new kid on the block that, and my interviews aren't really anymore about, so what is DevOps, Chris, right?
What is DevOps? Oh, we did DevOps last year.
Yeah, and
really.
So I'm glad to see us moving beyond that. But I also know that you attended a few DevOps sessions yesterday, right?
I did, and what I want to circle back to your point there for a moment. I grew up in Western New York, and we used to go skiing all the time. And I really got into it when I was younger, and I remember the instructors would tell me, you know who the best skier is on the mountain? The one you don't notice, because they are so smooth. And I think your point about DevOps is the same way. It's becoming so smooth, so integrated into, you don't even talk about it anymore. It's just you assume you have to start doing that.
Right.
So I thought that was a very interesting point you made.
Well, you assume you have to start doing DevOps, but I still think a lot of people struggle with, how do I do it, and can we do it better? Now, you mentioned something yesterday, you saw some long lines and
Right.
stuff.
So that, to me, that was one of those indicators you don't expect it, but you see it, and you're like, that means something. So I was here last year and probably a couple of years ago, and you could always get a seat at the DevOps sessions. And I went to one yesterday, and I'm not sure, I thought I was in New York standing, trying to get into a nightclub with the velvet rope. They were out the door. There were two fabulous ladies there saying, all right, this line on the left, this line on the right, keep the center open. And it was like 30 or 40 people deep to get in. You go inside and the room's already packed.
Yeah.
And then, of course, one of the senior IBM folks said, if you're IBM, get out of the room unless you're here with a customer. And I have never seen that before. And that just tells me, another indicator that, the time is here. People understand it's not optional. You have to do these things.
Yeah. And you know what? So even without the big DevOps banner, people are still getting it.
Yes.
Chris, what about Kingsmen Software? Not everyone watching here may be familiar. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so Kingsmen Software, we are a smaller, I guess you would call us a fintech sort of. A lot of us have worked in large banking in Charlotte I was there for 20 years, so, Wells Fargo, Wachovia, Bank of America. And we came out of the banks to basically help people do the things we were doing inside the banks and pockets. And so Kingsmen Software, we have a couple of different things. We focus on, we have a lean agile transformation. We have a UX practice, software delivery as a service, or development as a service. And my area is the DevOps advisory and implementation help. So it sounds spread out, but it's not. We've got the right folks in place that have done these things and actually have implemented these things in the bank. So a lot of folks, ex-bankers, we're happy to be able to help from the outside.
So you guys weren't the ones in the movie about the spies and everything, the James Bond guys?
No.
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 The Kingsmen.
You know what, though? That's actually the inspiration for the name. We talked about wanting to say, well, we're like either the SWAT team or the Special Forces team. We're going to drop in and fix things, but we're like, but we want to add some class to it. And the founder said, well, how about the Kingsmen? There's class with that. So it actually is that idea.
It's part of it. Very cool.
We tried to use it. They said we can't use the monikers.
No, I would imagine they might have some rules
They had
about
some
that.
problem with that.
Hey. All right. Well, Chris Nowak, Kingsmen Software, thanks so much for being here with us today.
All right.
Thank
you
you
too.
so much for doing those webinars, too, though. Our audience really loved them.
Good. I'm glad. Thank you.
Fantastic. Hey, this is Alan Schimmel of DevOps.com, DevOps TV. I'm here at IBM Think 2018 in Las Vegas. Have a great day, everyone.